Listen carefully. Because this is not just talk. This is not just politics. This is a warning sign. Inside the African Democratic Congress, something just shifted. This is not noise from outside. This is coming from within. A strong voice, Kenneth Okonkwo, dropped a statement that immediately changed the tone of the conversation. And he did not speak in a careful way. He did not leave room for misunderstanding. He went straight to the point. He said that if Peter Obi does not secure the presidential ticket of the party and then decides to leave, then it can only mean one thing. That he is compromised. That he is working for Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This is not a light claim. In Nigerian politics, words like compromised carry weight. They suggest hidden deals. They suggest betrayal. They suggest that what people see on the surface may not be the full truth. So when that kind of statement is made publicly, it does not stay small. It spreads fast. It raises questions among supporters. It creates doubt among neutral observers. And it puts pressure on the person at the center of it. Now look at the timing. The African Democratic Congress is still shaping its structure. Discussions are ongoing. Decisions have not been finalized. Yet, a major issue has already been placed on the table. Not policy. Not strategy. But loyalty. That changes everything. Because once loyalty becomes the focus, every move is watched differently. Every statement is analyzed. Every silence is questioned. And in a coalition that is trying to present unity, this kind of direct challenge creates tension beneath the surface. It also sends a message to others within the party. That this is not going to be a quiet process. That positions will be tested. And that no one, no matter how popular, will be free from scrutiny. Now think about what this means for Peter Obi. He is one of the most recognized figures in the coalition. He carries strong public support. And many people see him as a central force in the movement. So when his loyalty is questioned like this, it is not just a personal issue. It becomes a party issue. And at that point, the situation cannot be ignored. Because in politics, when a question like this is asked openly, an answer will always be expected. Peter Obi did not ignore the statement. He responded, and he did so in a way that was calm, measured, and direct. There was no sign of panic. There was no attempt to escalate the tension. Instead, he chose clarity. Speaking on the issue, Peter Obi made it clear that he is not leaving the African Democratic Congress for anybody. That point came first. No conditions attached. No hesitation in delivery. It was a firm position meant to address the growing speculation triggered by the remarks from Kenneth Okonkwo. Obi then shifted the focus away from personal ambition and toward the internal process of the party. He explained that the ADC is currently engaged in discussions that go beyond selecting a presidential candidate. According to him, there are deeper issues on the table. Issues that relate to structure, direction, and long-term goals. He stressed that the party is still working on key matters that must be settled before the question of candidacy becomes the main focus. This response is significant because it attempts to reframe the conversation. Instead of allowing the debate to center only on who gets the ticket, Obi is pointing to a broader agenda. He is suggesting that the foundation of the party must come first. That approach presents the ADC as a platform trying to build differently, rather than repeat the pattern seen in other political parties. He went further to state that when the time comes to decide on candidates, the process will be handled with a different mindset. A mindset that, in his words, will not follow the usual political path. This is a strong claim, especially in a political environment where internal party decisions are often criticized for lacking transparency. By saying this, Obi is placing a level of expectation on the ADC. An expectation that the process will be credible, inclusive, and structured in a way that reflects the party's stated goals. At the center of his response was also a direct rejection of the allegation that he could be working for Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He addressed it without hesitation. He stated clearly that he cannot work for something he does not believe in. And based on his current position, he does not agree with the direction of the present administration. This statement reinforces his stance as an opposition figure. It also attempts to remove any doubt about where he stands politically. In doing so, Obi is not only responding to Okonkwo's claim but also speaking to a wider audience that may have been influenced by the accusation. He emphasized that his political decisions are guided by his principles and his vision for the country. According to him, that vision is centered on building a system that works for ordinary Nigerians. He suggested that the current system does not meet that expectation. And that is why he remains committed to a different path. At the same time, Obi was careful not to turn the situation into a personal conflict. Rather than attacking Kenneth Okonkwo, he acknowledged him in a respectful manner. He referred to him as a brother and a fellow member of the same political effort. This choice of words is important. It signals an attempt to maintain unity within the party despite the disagreement. It also shows an awareness of how internal disputes can affect public perception. Obi then made another key point that adds a different layer to the discussion. He reminded listeners that he is not the only person within the ADC. That the party is made up of multiple individuals, each with their own role and contribution. This statement shifts attention away from a single-person focus and back to the collective structure of the party. It also suggests that the outcome of the party's decisions will not depend on one individual alone. In practical terms, this could be seen as a way of managing expectations among supporters. It indicates that while he is a major figure, the party's direction will be shaped by a broader group. Overall, Obi's response serves multiple purposes at once. It addresses the accusation directly. It reinforces his position within the party. It highlights the ongoing internal process of the ADC. And it attempts to preserve unity while managing tension. The tone remains controlled throughout. But the message is firm. He is staying. He is committed. And he is aligning himself with a vision that he insists is different from what currently exists. Now the focus shifts beyond the exchange of words. What is happening inside the African Democratic Congress is no longer just a conversation. It is becoming a test. A real one. Because moments like this reveal more than speeches ever can. They show how a political group handles pressure from within. They show whether unity is real or just a public image. And right now, the situation is simple on the surface but complex underneath. A statement has been made. A response has been given. But the tension has not disappeared. It has only changed form. Inside the party, different interests are beginning to stand out more clearly. There are those who believe that loyalty must be proven early. That no leader should be followed without clear commitment. That is the position strongly suggested by Kenneth Okonkwo. At the same time, there are those who believe the focus should remain on building the party first. On creating a system that can actually deliver change. That is the position presented by Peter Obi. Both sides are speaking to something real. But they are not saying the same thing. And that difference matters. Because in a coalition, alignment is everything. If the vision is not shared in the same way, small disagreements can grow into bigger divisions. That is how cracks begin. Not always with open conflict. Sometimes, with simple differences in approach. Now consider what lies ahead. The issue of the presidential ticket has not even been decided yet. But already, the conversation around it is shaping the mood inside the party. Supporters are watching closely. They are listening to every statement. They are trying to understand where each key figure stands. And in politics, perception moves fast. Faster than internal discussions. If the public begins to see division, it can weaken confidence. If confidence drops, momentum slows down. And for a party trying to position itself as a strong alternative, that is a serious risk. There is also the question of leadership structure. Who has the final influence when decisions are made? How will consensus be reached? And what happens if there is no agreement? These are not small questions. They are the kind that define the future of a political movement. At the center of all this is the larger national context. The administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu remains a major reference point in the discussion. Criticism of the current direction of the country continues to shape opposition politics. And within the ADC, that criticism is part of what brings different members together. But shared criticism is not enough to sustain unity. There must also be shared strategy, shared discipline, and a clear method for resolving internal disagreements. Without that, even the strongest coalition can lose direction. This is why the current moment is important. Not because of the words alone, but because of what follows them. How the party manages this situation will send a message. A message to supporters. A message to undecided voters. And a message to other political actors watching from the outside. If the ADC handles this with control and clarity, it strengthens its position. It shows that it can manage internal pressure without breaking apart. But if the tension grows without resolution, it creates doubt. And in politics, doubt spreads quickly. There is also the personal factor. Political figures do not operate in isolation. Reputations matter. Statements stay on record. And relationships within the party influence future decisions. The way this moment is handled between Obi and Okonkwo could shape how other members interact going forward. It could either build stronger internal respect or create lasting caution. At this stage, no final outcome has been reached. No ticket has been decided. No major decision has been announced. But the direction is already being tested. And that is what makes this moment critical. Because before the public sees the final result, the internal process must first prove itself. That is where the real challenge lies. Not in making promises, but in managing power, ambition, and expectation at the same time. The next steps taken by the party will carry weight. They will either confirm the message of change or raise further questions about it. And as the situation develops, one thing remains clear. This is no longer just about individuals. It is about whether a political movement can hold itself together under pressure. And that answer is still unfolding. What comes next will not happen in silence. Every move will be noticed. Every delay will be questioned. Because once a situation like this becomes public, it takes on a life of its own. Within the African Democratic Congress, there will now be more careful conversations behind closed doors. Leaders will weigh their words more. Alliances may begin to shift quietly. Not in a dramatic way, but in small, strategic steps. That is how internal politics often works. At the same time, supporters outside the party are forming opinions. Some are choosing sides already. Some are waiting to see who shows consistency. And some are simply watching for any sign that the unity being presented is real. This public attention adds another layer of pressure. Because the ADC is not operating in isolation. It is trying to present itself as a serious alternative on the national stage. That means every internal issue is also a public test. And in that environment, timing becomes important. How quickly will the party clarify its position? Will there be a clear roadmap for how decisions will be made? Or will uncertainty continue for longer than expected? These questions matter because uncertainty creates space for speculation. And speculation can damage trust if it is not addressed. There is also the strategic angle. Other political groups will be watching closely. Not openly, but with interest. They will be looking for signs of weakness. Signs of disagreement that can be used to shape public narratives. That is a normal part of political competition. No party ignores the internal struggles of another. So the way this situation is handled does not only affect the ADC internally. It also affects how it is seen by opponents. At the center of this remains Peter Obi. His next actions will carry weight beyond his own position. If he continues to emphasize unity and structure, it may calm tensions. If new disagreements emerge, it could raise more questions. That balance is delicate. Because strong leadership requires both firmness and control. And in moments like this, both are tested at the same time. On the other side, Kenneth Okonkwo has already made his stance clear. He has set a standard for what he considers loyalty. That position now exists in the public space. And it cannot be taken back easily. So the party must find a way to manage these different expectations without allowing them to collide. That is the real challenge. Not the statement itself, but what follows it. There is also a deeper issue that may not be openly discussed but is always present. Ambition. In any political movement, individuals have goals. They have expectations. They have timelines. And when those timelines do not align, tension appears. That is why structure becomes important. Clear rules. Clear processes. Clear communication. Without these, even well-meaning actors can find themselves in conflict. This is where the ADC must be careful. If it truly wants to present a different model, then its internal system must reflect that difference. Not just in words, but in action. That includes how it handles disagreement, how it builds consensus, and how it ensures that no single issue disrupts the larger goal. As things stand, the situation is still open. No final decisions have been made. But the direction taken from this point forward will shape the next phase. It will determine whether the party moves with confidence or continues under growing scrutiny. And in a political space where public trust is already fragile, every step must be calculated. Because once trust is shaken, it is not easy to rebuild. That is why this moment matters. Not as a headline, but as a turning point. One that will define how the party is seen moving forward.